Welcome back to the Endeavors AI podcast. I'm your host, Colin McKee, founder of Endeavors AI, where we talk about the intersection of artificial intelligence, law, business, and the new economy being built all around it. Today's guest has one of the more unusual founder stories that I've come across. He's a West Point graduate, Rice University MBA, and career at Citi. And then he gets served legal papers and ends up buying the company that served him. He's since rebuilt that business from the ground up, layering AI and automation into nearly every part of the back end while keeping the human side, the actual service process, exactly as it's been since the 1800s. He's also actively acquiring other companies in the space right now. Raj, welcome to the show.
Hey, Colin. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. So let's start where most people wouldn't expect a business story to start. You got served papers and somehow turned that into owning the company that served you. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, I can. I was laid off of my last corporate finance role. The project was a dud. They got shut down the office, let go of everyone in Houston. At the same time, I had an unhappy wife and she filed divorce on me. And there's a guy that showed up to my door. Now, I was in a spot where I had to figure out how to make money quick, and I was between interviews, need to figure out something to do. This guy shows up at my door to serve me papers. I asked him how much it cost him to serve me, and he told me 100 and something bucks. And I was like, wow, this is a business. I could do 10 of these a day and continue paying my bills until I found my next role. And that's exactly what I did. I went and got a process server's license and, served about 5, 10 papers a day, got all my bills paid, but I fell in love with it. Like, I loved driving around Houston, loved knocking on doors, serving papers, getting that dopamine hit every time someone got served, getting myself out of challenging or tricky situations. Really enjoyed the difficult ones where you have to kind of sit there and wait for them to come out. And while I was serving papers, I would go into the office every now and then to grab big printouts. And while I was there, I'd talk with Patrick, the owner of Lone Star Attorney Service. And every now and then he'd ask me for just random business advice, given my previous background. And over the next 2 years, while I was serving documents, we became good friends. I became an advisor to him. We started trusting each other. And at some point, I believe it was last April, he was looking to exit out of the operator role in the business and step into an operator role in a different business. So he approached me. We had lunch. He asked me if I wanted to run the business. I politely declined that offer and asked him if I could just buy it from him. And so we came to terms, came to great financing terms, and now I'm the majority owner of the business.
It's awesome. So the buying process itself, you've got a great track record, West Point discipline, the Rice MBA, City background. You said even with all that, it still wasn't an easy process. And why was that?
So at an institution like Citi, whenever we're doing transactions for large public companies, the processes and what you expect it's very specific and structured. Here, you have to go out and find a lawyer. When you're working for a company like Citi or any large investment bank, they have a team of lawyers they already work with. You have to go find a guy to do some financial diligence. Over there, they have an entire team in-house to do all of that. You have to trust your gut here, and that you have to just diligence the company, make sure there's no hidden skeletons. Whereas in an institution like Citi, for public companies, most of the information is fully disclosed. And so there's a lot of unknowns here that aren't the case over there. And then also there's personal risks that you take in these small business deals that you don't have to take when you're working for somebody else. And I think that's the biggest, that's what requires the largest tolerance for risk and intestinal fortitude if someone does want to do something like this.
So you've talked about this whole story as an every door that closes, another one opens kind of story. Does that framing still kind of feel true when you look back at it, or has it evolved at all?
I think it still holds true. You know, when the door of my marriage closed, I thought it was the end of the world. I was never going to find a girl like that again. And, I had dug my heels into the identity of being a married man and a dad. And 2 years later, I'm now with an amazing woman who has been a great partner to me. Same thing with with my professional life too. I thought that, after I got laid off, that was the end. It was the worst day of my life. I'm never going to recover from this. And now I'm doing something I love way more than what I went to school for.
It's excellent. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people probably would have walked away, had that horrible experience and not want to have anything to do with that industry because it probably scar me for life. Instead, you decided that you were going to go head first into it and purchase the business. So before we get into the business itself, I want to kind of understand what you actually built, once you got the keys, what you took over and what you've built. So let's talk about, what happens inside the business day by day. You've drawn a pretty clear line that the service process itself is not touched by AI. That's still human. Of course, you still need to serve someone
Hmm.
physically with
Hmm.
papers. But everything behind it is kind of different. So what did you do, underneath the hood with the business that you're running now?
Yeah. So when I bought it, it was about $1 million in revenue. A lot of the processes were completely manual. There was a human typing in stuff on a keyboard, and every process I would say was touched by a human being. Slowly over time, we've begun automating. So the first step was to automate the emails. I mean, we get hundreds, if not thousands, of emails daily asking for status updates and whether we can do service in a certain area or job intake. And so what we've done is we used AI to help us automate that email management process. There is not necessarily an AI solution for every process issue. And this was one of the ones where we realized that we don't necessarily need AI and we don't need to pull, Claude APIs or whatever to resolve this issue. All we need to do was set up a bunch of different filters, but we did that with the help of the AI of
Hmm.
Claude. So Claude would go in, audit all the emails, and it laid out the process and all the filters that we needed for the different mailboxes that we have. Then we have attempt management. There are some process servers that still sent their attempts in via email rather than doing it via our software platform. We developed using AI, we were able to parse through the emails based on what their labels are. And we were able to figure out a way to take those emails and actually update them to the specific job in ServeManager that we use fully automated. So it goes through all the emails a few times a day, takes those attempts, puts it into ServeManager, and sends out the alert to the client. And so there were several other processes like that were happening with a lot of human intervention that we've now automated up to probably 75%. 25% of the jobs still require some human intervention, but we're about 75% automated. Billing and invoicing is another one. We used to have post every single payment manually. We've now got an AI to be able to do that.
It's excellent. Yeah, getting a lot of your time back and doing the part of it that gets you that dopamine hit that you love. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned something in our first discussion that I kind of wanted to dig in. You said when you automate too much, like one out of three or four jobs tends to break because it needs customization, and that actually creates more work for you if you've never automated it. So what did that teach you about where the line should be as far as where you use AI or automation and where you don't?
I think AI needs to be used on si- on simple tasks, simple repetitive tasks. Where AI breaks is where customer service or customizations are required. So, for example, I mean, we have I'd say 75% of our jobs are probably routine, run of the mill. Document is sent to us, address is correct, everything is right. We send it out for service, hits the right address, guy gets served. But then there's the fringe jobs where you have to coordinate with the server because the client wants it done ASAP at a certain time, and it might not be the right address. And if that address doesn't work, then you have to go to a different one. And there's some hitch along the way that requires some more human intervention. So it's good to have a it's good to have a human on backup, but then to scale those simple jobs because they're automated. And so I think that if we can maintain that ratio of those simple jobs plus a little bit of the custom jobs, then we can scale with the processes that we currently have and charge a higher margin on the jobs that require more customizations.
Smart. And there was another distinction that you made in our first discussion that I think is lost on a lot of people. I wanted you to kind of unpack as well. You said, automation isn't the same thing as AI, and throwing AI at a broken process doesn't fix it. So I love that. If you would kind of expound upon that and what you mean by it.
Yeah, so we live in a world now where many people think that throwing AI at a problem or a process is what's going to solve the issue. But what we found is when we did the audit of all of our processes, there were some processes that were just broken, whether you automated it or whether it was done by human intervention. It was just a broken process, right? So, for example, our collections process. It was just a the way that we were doing it, even if we automated it, even if AI did the exact same things that a human was doing, it would not work. And so it required more than just AI intervention. It required really going back, looking at the process, fixing what needs to be fixed, and then automating the parts that could be automated, and then using AI at certain steps of that process, rather than just saying, "Hey, here's AI. Why don't you go and do what the humans were doing in this broken process," right? And I think that many companies are taking that approach where they're just replacing humans with AI, but not really examining what the flaws in their processes are.
Yep. Yep. You got to look at where your foundation is. If your current state of how you do things is broken, throwing fuel at it is not going to be the answer.
Exactly. 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 So if you have humans that are, if your customer service is crap and you replace humans with AI, it's not going to solve your customer retention issue, right? So the AI is the AI only works as good as the humans that train the AI. And if you can't train a human, how are you going to train a robot?
Exactly, exactly. Well put. And another thing is, so your team, it seems to be kind of a young, you could say inexperienced, but in this day and age, the younger ones actually are more experienced when it comes to technology. A lot of times, you see, you've got essentially like high school graduates that are using AI daily at a level that's higher than professional other large institutions in your space. So, what do you think changed for them? How has AI allowed these inexperienced workers to work at a level, that's so high?
Yeah, so there's some interesting statistics that I've looked up. Apparently, less than 12% of the US population currently uses AI on a daily basis. Not just for work, but generally speaking, for work, for life, personal, professional, whatever, less than 12% of people are using it daily. That's both tech and non-tech roles. When you look at people in tech roles, you have 30% of the population using AI on a daily basis. We've developed a culture where as soon as we start up our workstations, we open up Claude. And what I've seen is an increase in critical thinking, an increase in productivity. I'm seeing things move a lot faster, problems get solved faster, and just a culture in which we have fully adopted the use of AI on more than just a daily basis.
That's awesome. Yeah, that second stat, first stat, I don't think would shock people, 12%, but then, those that you would assume are using this
Hmm.
new wonderful tool, a third, a third are amazing, amazing. So, in that same sense, you work with a large number of law firms, not just there in Houston and Harris County, but those that have dealings in Texas as well. So, what's your honest
Hmm.
read as far as the median or mean usage of AI across the law firms that are clients of yours?
It's pretty low. I mean, I can't even put a number. It's so low that I can't even put a number on it. I don't even know what they're using it for. I think that the legal industry is right now, what we saw was a huge increase in the use of AI. And they were just kind of, it was like the Wild West. They were using it for anything and everything, right? No real purpose. Just if it's something that makes a human being work, try to replace it with AI. And so what we saw is AI started drafting petitions and AI started doing legal thinking and legal work and drafting these petitions with uh with with false information. So it was putting in precedent law that didn't exist, or coming up with stuff that was just hallucinated, I guess. And so we then saw the legal industry take a step back from AI and think about where it could be used. And I think right now everyone's just kind of taking a pause from it almost, it feels like. But I think where the potential lies in the usage of AI in the legal industry is not necessarily in the practice of law, but rather in a lot of the front end and the back end. So intake, I'm seeing a lot of AI being used. We don't really interface with that, but what I've seen is intake is being largely either automated or outsourced. So whenever you call a law firm, with whatever issue you may have, whether it be personal injury or, some other kind of litigation, the information is being evaluated by some kind of LLM, right? And then the phones are being answered by someone overseas, even sometimes. Then another place where I see potential for it, again, this is not somewhere where we interface, but I believe that court reporting and stenography are largely going to be that industry is going to get disrupted by AI, like AI transcribers. We see it on Zoom already, Fireflies, whatever you want to call it. That is going to just devastate the current court reporting industry. Then the next place where I see it is in a lot of the litigation financing. So creating algorithmic models for evaluating lawsuits and underwriting litigation or litigation funding. That's another place where I see a large potential use for AI. Where I don't see AI being disruptive at all is in the actual work that lawyers do. So drafting these petitions, coming up with case precedents, arguing in court. I don't really see much disruption there. And then another place that I see it too is jury selection. I think there's a lot of potential there. So I think in the ecosystem surrounding litigation, there's a lot of potential uses for AI, but I think that there's still a degree of evaluation that needs to be done on where it's going to be the most useful without impacting the attorney-client relationship.
Yep. Goes back to, it's not going to do the core of the business or, what
Hmm.
they got into being an attorney for, the thing that
Yeah,
they're passionate about, their dopamine hit, right? It's the
yeah,
element it can't be replaced. And the experience, the personal experience that a lot of these attorneys have. Yeah, nothing to worry about there. But as far as the monotonous repetition, repetitive work,
yeah,
yep,
yeah. And
yeah.
the ecosystem surrounding the legal industry, I think, has a lot of room for AI disruption.
Hmm. So if you're talking to a managing partner right now, what's one of the things on the vendor side of the house of their business, companies like yours, that you wish that firms understood more or thought about more that maybe they don't today?
I think that they see these legal service providers as commoditized businesses. Who's going to give me the best deal, right? And what I what I ask them to implore is, are they getting the highest quality per dollar spent? There's firms out there that are just complete crap, charging the lowest prices, but also, giving crap service. And then there's companies out there that are super white gloved and it doesn't really fit the needs of the firm, right? And so I ask these attorneys, our audience is mostly paralegals actually, to really think about whether that vendor fits the needs of the firm rather than viewing the vendors as, you know, a commoditized business or, what you would think like a gas station, right? Doesn't matter what the gas is. People just go there based on price. So a lot of people see businesses like mine as just commoditized businesses, but that's not the case because it's a business where speed, accuracy, and transparency are critical, and not everyone provides that.
So if you were talking, say I'm a firm right now, and here I am, I'm nodding my head, I'm agreeing with you, but that doesn't mean I'm going to action anything. What's the first thing that a firm would actually do to evaluate the relationship that they have with their vendor, or these back end processes? How do they make the right decision, make sure that they're getting the best, you said, value for their money?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is just try us out, right? It's pretty non-committal. We don't ask them to sign a contract or anything like that. Just try us out. Send us a job or two, see how we perform, see if you like us. If you don't, I have a dozen people I could recommend you to. If
Awesome.
you like us, we'll continue working together.
That's fair. Very fair. So, quick rapid fire before we close out the episode. What's one thing you think a law firm should audit about their vendor tech stack, say this week, if they have the opportunity to?
Man, that's a tough question. I'd say probably just how many vendors they are using currently. and where there's room for consolidation. So, are you using a bunch of different process servers for a bunch of different counties that you're operating in, or do you have one person handling all of them? Same for court reporting and stenography, same for all the other litigation support services. Do you really need all the vendors that you have, or can a lot of them be consolidated into one platform or a few platforms so you don't have to keep track of a bunch of different service providers?
And that kind of bleeds into my next question. Where do you think that all of these, the process, the back end services go in like the next 2 years? Do you see a lot of consolidation? Is that where you think we'll be in a couple years time?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these litigation support businesses are highly fragmented. I think there is definitely room for a lot of consolidation. I think that what it's going to come down to, though, is are the consolidators going to want to spend the money to acquire, or are they going to want to spend the money to advertise and organically grow and just let everyone else die out?
I
Either
like
way, there is going to be consolidation, though.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to agree with you. And lastly, where can people find out about you and follow your work?
They can visit our website, www.lonestar.com. They can follow me on LinkedIn. We have Instagram, we have Facebook page, and then yeah, I think the website and the LinkedIn are probably the two best places.
Awesome. Cool. We'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes. So Raj, I really appreciate it. This was exactly what I was hoping for. I appreciate you sharing your story. It's probably one that some people would try to shy away from, but you're on it, and I've come out, with a fairy tale ending there. You're back in a great place. So, and for anyone listening, if you're wondering where your own firm is or your business actually stands when it comes to AI, whether you're exposed, if you're behind, that's exactly what we do here at Endeavors AI. We like to work with firms and small businesses and see how AI ready they are. Some people are sticking their heads in the sand. That's not where we need to be, but we need to be disciplined and respectful of the large language models. But they're here to stay. So reach out to Endeavors AI. We'd love to help you with that. But with that, I'm Colin McKee for Raj Kankaria. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Colin.